butterfly in the sky. I can go twice as high. Take a look.
Reading Rainbow's coming back, isn't it?
Wait. You mean the Stevie Wonder, the guy from Stargate? And welcome back to another Linux Gamecast Weekly, the show that covers the latest Linux gaming news, reviews, how-tos, and most importantly, whatever the hell else we come up with. This week, The Witcher 2 releases a moon patch. No mention of what it fixes. Leadwerks officially launches, but will it run on your Linux box? And GOG is in search of a quote-unquote Linux tech specialist, but you might want to hold off on that excitement.
Just so you know, Desura is cheaping out, but will it be worth your base bucks? Natural Selection 2 devs abandon ship, but can the community pick up the slack? And the community beckons the gay Ben to ditch DRM, and they're probably barking up the wrong tree.
Not only that, but Steam actually grants refunds. Seems the hands-off approach is not working as well as they thought. Curse was released, and I can't seem to find a decent Linux RPG since Neverwinter Nights came out in 2003. And eventually, OpenMW releases the 0.30.0 alpha. I did say they would have a playable beta by the end of the year, didn't I?
And that's that. I'm Vince Stone, the other people, you already know them, and also Shatrealm Dynamic, and together we're going to form a bit of a cocaine Voltron this evening. But, P-Man, do you have any websites you've been thinking about setting up, maybe?
Yeah, actually, we were discussing this earlier, and I want to set up a website to teach blind people on how to use guns. I'm going to call it StevieWonderSniperRifle.com, but I'm going to need a lot of space for the audio files.
Man, let's talk about hosting then, because I have a solution. That's HostGator.com. They eat up the hosting competition, starting at 3.71 wet stinky moon caches, unlimited disk space, unlimited bandwidth, easy control panel install, one-click script installs, and 99.99% uptime. And you're thinking, check that out, 371, maybe a good time to get 10% off, J-Man?
Yeah, that seems like a reasonable discount.
How about 15?
I think you might be smoking a wee bit of crack there.
How about this? Instead of that business, enter our offer code at checkout, LGC Week FTW, seizure code of Seizure-tastic, and you shall receive 25% off at checkout at any time. No extra special needed. And that's a thing. So, gentlemen, what have we been up to this week before we get into the horsey business? Over here in Vinland, I got a Vinstein. It's pretty neat. It's pewter. It's stamped. It was made in the 60s. It's kind of like brass knuckles that can hold alcohol, for the rage-induced alcoholic on the go. P-Man, anything new exciting?
Yes. I don't know how much the pool was on the bets regarding when I would find a job, but whomever bet on 1 year, 2 months, and 3 days, congratulations, you win.
God
yeah,
damn it,
so
I was
apparently
going for never, and he dies before he gets a job.
So yeah, I effectively have a job. It's just going to take about a month of paperwork and bullshit because it's a state-sponsored internship for the first year. So yeah, good times.
So how was that deprivation tank of deprivation?
Oh, that was like weeks ago, dude.
I know, but I figured you would finally come out and be able to talk about it publicly.
Oh, yes. Well, I can't. They made me sign it. I didn't get a fancy new microphone, though.
Oh, look at that. That's a new hotness, isn't it?
Yeah, this is the T. Brown Memorial microphone over here.
Right.
It's been replaced with this new sexy business and a cheap mixer that I have this hooked up to. Ben and I set this up Monday, and it's pretty fucking nifty.
I, for one, like it. But let's get into some horsey business, my friends.
Oh, yes.
Don't we have
So
a bit of a PSA?
Right. We do have a little PSA before we get going.
We do? Oh.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Good call. P-Man. I hear that you had a witching experience.
Yes, it was quite
The
the
witching hour is nigh.
Yeah. So you may remember from last week, I wasn't here. We had Ultimore in Shadow Realm, Mr. Sandy. You guys discussed the fact that The Witcher was not a native port. It was wrapped in EON or whatever the fuck they call it. So I was like, wait a second, I just paid €4 for this shit, and this is not what I assumed it would be due to the lack of anything in the store page telling me otherwise. So I contacted Steam support, and I sent them an email saying, hey, I request a refund because this is not what I was led to believe it is. I thought it was a native port, and it isn't. And according to Portuguese law, I have a 24-hour period to ask for a refund on digital or physical products. A couple of days later, I get this email Vince showed you. Dear M43US, we have returned the purchase of your items below. The credit will appear in your Steam wallet and is available for immediate use. Refunded items, The Witcher 2, blah, blah, blah. So there you have it, children. Steam does grant refunds, and hopefully this will send a message to the people at virtual programming, what the fuck ever.
Oh yeah, that one refund.
That was it, right there.
I'm pretty sure I wasn't the only one.
I was blind, but now I see. Dear Lord, we have to work on improving our framework to actually spit out native code.
All right, so let's try this horse thing one more time.
Nay, it's our Steam!
Lex!
Day
Of the week. Uh-oh, Valve time.
Valve time again.
No, I'm going to take this. This is the Steam Machine update, and Valve has kind of said, about that whole 2014 release, yeah, because Valve time, F off. And everyone else kind of went, no, I saw that coming.
Nope.
But what they do say is, we're now using wireless prototype controllers to conduct live playtest. Send us some G-money. That's what I call game. With everyone from industry professionals to diehard gamers to casual gamers. It's ton useful, of course. It's also keeping us pretty busy making those improvements. Realistically, we're now looking at a release window of 2015, not 2014. So, when will we see this, J-Man, before we're in the home?
Hopefully. Parallel launch with Half-Life 3.
I don't know, December
Sock confirmed!
29th.
Source for X.
Probably December 29th, 2015.
I don't know. I mean, I'd like to see it come out. And we were talking about this in the pre-show, or maybe before that. And J-Man brought up a really good point. I mean, they're trying to do something revolutionary, quote-unquote, and that's to let you play PC games in a sit-back experience, and that is going to be hella difficult. So
the more testing they're doing, I mean, you in the show notes you likened it to the whole Witcher fiasco, and I have to say this is honestly a better mentality than let's slap something together and patch it when people start complaining. No, they're actually trying to put together a decent quality product, and I'm all for that. That's a good mentality to have, and something that many devs these days seem to be lacking.
The age of early access.
An open letter to Valve.
All right, the open letter to Valve. Let's encourage DRM-free games on Steam, because if you don't see the irony in that sentence, I don't know what's wrong with you. So yeah, this is a post by XODETAETL on Reddit, the r Steam subreddit, and he says he's a recent Steam user and he doesn't like DRM and that it provides zero value to users. They only take away from usage freedom and the feeling of owning games and all that. So he's trying to encourage more developers to release their games as DRM-free options through Steam, much like The Last Federation did. And I don't know, personally, I don't think that Valve is the right person to contact about this.
That's kind of what I said. I'm all for DRM free, and he does fair point. There is a Steam wiki list of DRM free games. I looked at that and I went, wow,
Yeah.
all right, that's a lot of stuff. And good on the Brutal Legend. The Half-Life 2 series is DRM free. You don't get
Yeah, you can
Steam
take the
achievements
files out from Steam.
Right. And it's looking at it's great, but he's like, well, we need to contact Valve. And I'm like, I think you're barking up the wrong chainsaw on this one, son, because enabling DRM and all that business, working with the Steam runtime, that's an option for the developer. So unfortunately, I don't think it's Valve's job, correct me if I'm right, to say whether or not they're going to use DRM. Because they've managed, unlike Origin and all these other moon things, to do DRM right.
Well,
very right.
really, what they do is they heap on a bunch of value-added services to their DRM to make it very
Yeah.
tolerable. Like save game syncing, that shit's fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The save game syncing, you have global leaderboards, you have, if you're using Linux, the Steam controller, and Windows too, I think it's working properly in Windows now. The Steam controller thing allows you to set up any controller to work as an Xbox controller, so as long as the developers port it right, it works. So yeah, there's a lot to the Steam client, not just the DRM. Granted, it's still online DRM. It's prone to failure, but
Online DRM in a sense, insofar
Yeah.
as you have to fetch your games and patches from their service. But again, go to the list of DRM-free games on the Steam wiki, and you can literally just install them, pick them out of their little directories under Steam apps, and toss them on other computers, and it'll work.
definitely, as far as DRM goes, Steam is one of the least terrible.
That's
They're-
definitely. I understand DRM is a complete holy war, and no one's ever going to agree on that. I'm not a huge fan of it. If you want a completely DRM-free service, Desura, but we'll talk about that later. But speaking of something that mostly works, let's screech over to something that
So recently, this week actually, CD Projekt Red released a 37.3 megabyte patch for The Witcher. What does it do? What's it for? No one knows. But Ven, you have some news regarding that, don't you?
Yeah, that was kind of my whole thing. We're looking at the forums page here, and from Linux Play X, what he said. Let me go back to that. Any infos or changelog? Q, you're in Alana. Nope, there is none whatsoever. What I've surmised from actually playing it on the Ubuntu box, the Dual 770, it went from running like complete jarring ass, total shit to shit.
See, I installed the update, and it still doesn't fucking run for me. And Ben pointed out this bug on the GitHub page, or on the GitHub tracker, and
The unofficial.
they said, oh, there's an issue with the RPM Fusion NVIDIA drivers because they're patched. So go grab the latest ones from NVIDIA. So I go grab the 337.25 drivers, I think it was, and install them. Nothing. I still can't play the game that I paid $4 for.
Woo!
And it's nothing new. This thing is, there's even a thread in there. It just does not work on Fedora 20.
Or Slackware, even.
Right. Have you tried
No,
it
it
out?
doesn't work on Fedora 20.
Ah,
Not even in the open source drivers.
How about Corora?
Nope.
Nope.
I tried their sysctl fix in there too. Nada.
So I wish I could say that was surprising, but no.
Yeah,
Maybe by the end of 2015, we'll definitely have this up and running long after Witcher 3 is released. But,
That's an optimistic assumption.
P-Man, you want to be a Shogun Samurai?
Yes, I want. Unfortunately, Skulls of the Shogun does not allow me to do that. Skulls of the Shogun, if you happen to grab the Humble PC bundle and Android deal they have going on.
It's the bona fide edition. Get it?
Yeah. So if you go and grab that, you get Skulls of the Shogun, including a bunch of other games you already own. And it's a turn-based strategy, undead Japanese warriors type deal. And personally, it's not my cup of tea. And be very careful, even if you do like turn-based strategy games. It's not a very good PC port. It's an app.
Speaking of being
would you say it's worth the 15 wet stinkies?
right?
Oh hell no!
I'm looking at $14.99, and that's what it is. I mean,
Nope.
Joystick says we found Scrolls of the Shogun to be an absolutely enjoyable experience, so much that we gave. It doesn't really ever say what it is at any point on their Steam page, but $14.99 wet stinky caches for this business, and I actually went looking around. It's available on the iTunes store because you see something like this and you go, it's an app. You know, you do your act ball.
Yep.
And naturally, it's like £5 as an app. And yeah, not really sure exporting. I'm guessing this is going to be Unity. Maybe they did a lot of custom work to move it over. I don't know. But just from the looks of it, definitely, I bought it on the Humbly Bundle because I was going to spend $15 on something. It doesn't... Then I loaded up, and I was like, wow, somebody watched a lot of Samurai Jack as a kid. There's a lot of that in there. And then I go to the first battle, and it's like, oh, right, turn-based up, well, exit, escape, well, that was my next key move for that. But, honestly, at the end of the day, take that shot. If anyone wants to pay full price for this, let me know so I can get a plane ticket, fly to your house, and serve you pancakes. J-Man, do you have any thoughts on this bizwax?
Might be all right. It doesn't look like a game that I would pay $15 for it. I mean, the Metascore is all right if I had bothered to pick up the Humble Bundle.
And in all fairness, Ultimore, yes, it works perfectly fine with a controller.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's an app game that works with a controller. Shock among shocks.
But is it just me, or has Humble succumbed to the app craze along with Steam? It's like most bundles lately, they're mostly mobile games.
Well, that's because most devs these days, or at least a lot of indie devs, are just putting out mobile games because they're cheap to produce and they have a decent profit margin.
Right, they're pretty good at that. And we've seen, there's some stuff that's being greenlit that are Android apps and iPhone apps and whatnot.
Oh, Pizza Dude Skulls of the Shogun is ported by Flibbidibidiboo. Is that right? Let's go to Flibbit's
Oh,
website.
yeah, it's XBLA. That's probably an FNA game.
Oh.
Yeah, the game was released on XBLA a while back. Yeah, that's an FNA game.
Oh. So there's that. Ben's the idiot. I just said it's not worth $15.
No, I said it's available. I said it's available in the iTunes store for $5, and it's the same fucking mothering game. So, at the end of the day,
yeah, kill the bad guy. This is Murder Simulator 2014. Basically, what this is if you throw down your 15 wet stinkies, you get to play a game that has more or less textureless environments, but you get to engineer people's deaths in complex and possibly hilarious ways. And then once you've proven how proficient you are at planning the murder of someone, you can go share this on the internet with other people. Oh, hi, NSA.
Make it look like an accident, the game.
Make it look like an accident.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like the whole thing is you can take control of vehicles and weather and give people weapons and whatnot, all for the effort of trying to kill this one guy. Personally, I prefer the Monty Python approach of just launching gigantic feet at him from the air.
Yep.
I think that's the best way to murder someone.
So what's the game really supposed to be? I mean, it's just Rube Goldberg.
It's a murder simulator. It's like Benny Hill death game.
It's like graphically looking at this, it's like, yeah, we got everything level design laid out and all that, and somebody said textures, and everyone laughed.
Yeah, they're pretty expensive. I mean, that fire one must have cost at least like $50K.
Maybe it adds something to the
Look at
autistic
that
style.
Fire 100.
Yeah.
Ooh,
I mean, I don't know. And I also do not know if it's going to be worth $14.99 wet sticky caches, but yeah.
Maybe if it goes on sale, it might be worth it if you like watching people die horribly. Because I sure do.
Right. I mean, it clocks unreasonable. We'll definitely have to form an opinion on that later in life. But how about this curse, man?
Monochroma.
Monochroma.
Chroma. So this is a game that we've talked about a long time ago.
Billions
The
of
devs
years
gave
ago.
us a key for this, so I installed this, and I tried to play this in the middle of the day in a very sunny room and was unable to do so.
And you're talking about problems I've never experienced.
Yes. But yes, like I said, one thing that really bothers me about this game though is
Well, tell them what it is. I mean,
complete
it's a
lack of color
cinematic puzzle platformer. It's a game about being a kid growing up with a little brother that needs your help, facing obstacles, solving puzzle platformer with your little brother as a key mechanic, right?
drinking booze apparently as an old bald man.
And it's Turbo Noir. It kind of has a Sin City vibe to it.
Yeah,
it's,
I can see that.
Limbo with
This
a
is
bit
my
more color
city.
to it.
Well, I the backgrounds look very lovely, but
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a.
just don't try playing this in a brightly lit.
When we
room.
played the Alpha billions of years ago, I mean, literally, it was probably over a year ago when we got our hands on that. It looks gorgeous.
Yep.
Rocking with that. The first release does not have controller support, so hold on to your wallets
You got to play with the arrow keys, which is very jarring. I'm used to
for a puzzle
platform.
platformer. Yeah.
I'm used to platforming with this hand, and then when I have to use this hand, it's like no, wrong, bad.
So hold off on
But
that, even
yeah.
though it's 10% off, and it's going to normally clock in at 20. If you're looking at it, I mean, if you already got it, you're not going to be depressed. You're going to have a decent time with it. It's just looking at it. I mean, it's eye candy.
Yeah, we need more pretty games on Linux.
Indeed.
Yeah.
But something that is not quite so beautiful.
Curses!
apparently
Foiled
something
again!
got cursed. And I'm guessing it was me, because all I ever asked for, and all I've ever asked for in the past year or so, is a proper Linux RPG. And here comes... Here comes Din's Curse. And they claim it's an RPG. They claim it's a procedurally generated hack and slash RPG, which is bullshit. It's just an hack and slash with rogue elements like the procedural generation and
So it's exactly what it described.
a couple of other roguish elements, and people seem to enjoy it. I just can't get over how Unity-tastic it looks.
Dig those Linux system requirements, though.
Oh, yeah.
What? You know, 1.5 gigahertz power PC. I gotta drag out my old iMac and my Yellow Dog.
Yellow
Linux
Dog.
system.
256,
Yellow Dog.
200. Yeah, this is definitely not a Unity game, I'm guessing. I think
It
it's
isn't?
a rather old game. It came out billions of years ago, 2010. So,
Oh, Christ, I just saw that. Oh, God.
yeah.
Oh,
The
God.
graphics are genuinely
God.
dated. What I looked at it for, and I looked through the forums, basically everyone's like, okay, fair enough, the graphics are bitch shit. I mean, it's Torchlight on a budget. But everyone seems to like it for the reasons that Pedro was crapping on it. And I'm kind of in, Team P-Man's camp with procedurally generated level design, but that's what people seem to genuinely love about this game. They're like, it never gets old. I got 60+ hours in playing in it. And
Well, I mean, it worked very well for Rogue Legacy because that shit's addictive as hell.
Yeah, but Rogue Legacy was a very well done game. This just looks like a 3D implementation of Tales of Martial. Yeah.
Meh.
pray tell.
So get this. Wait, no, you can pick up Din's Curse for $10 if you're interested. But this is kind of interesting.
Mhm.
The NS2 devs have just up and left.
Well,
They've said, "Screw
Yep,
y'all,
we're
I'm
done
going
with this shit."
home." and they've put a community council in charge of the development of Natural Selection 2. And this can really end in one or two ways. So I'm gonna go grab my microwave popcorn and sit back and watch this.
No, what they
Personally-
do say, man, check this out. I mean, this comes from Rock, Paper, Shotgun. Like everything else, you can find this in our show notes. Here's the thing, the relatively small team at Subnautica isn't going to build itself in as to, however, will sort of. A community dev team has been given UW's official blessing, so expect to be gorging yourself on their creations soon. There's some details below. I'm kind of with, JMAT on this. This could get really good. It depends. Do they just get their blessing to develop mods, or are they actually giving them the source to unfuck?
I think they're giving them like full-on source.
Do you think they'll be able to sort that engine, P-Man?
That's where the caveat lies. I'm cautiously optimistic. Maybe someone in the community will figure out how to unfuck their Linux build.
Or maybe
not.
that could actually become a priority as more and more pressure comes in from the community developing it. Just a thought. Wink, wink.
Just a thought.
Yeah, for me, Natural Selection 2 was definitely one of those games I was hella interested in. Kind of like Little Racer Street, but by the time it got to a semi-playable level, I gave fuck all about it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's I was a wee disappointed when that dropped for Linux. I was so excited. And then it crashed. Hey, tutorial level crash.
That went from crashing to just not
30
working.
minutes to compile the shaders. Good times.
So it's time to pack that horse away and get into some regular news, isn't it, buddy?
I gotta give him the thumper later on. Coming up next, right. Regular news for your face hole.
And we're back with some good old-fashioned news. So, Ven, I think there's some Leadwerks news coming out this evening.
In my pants.
Oh.
Now, Leadwerks Game Engine 2-week demo is now available. This is some secret stuff that I've been sitting on for billions of years. Actually, just a few months. But, it's a true, real boy. Josh Clint, the founder of Leadwerks, he said the PC platform plays to the company's strength in graphics and development tools. Linux is where the really exciting developments are happening. On the desktop in the living room, Leadwerks for Linux is designed to bring user-friendly game development. There we have a link to where you can download it at their workspace. We'll click on that. And you grab the demo. Currently, it's only for 64-bit. And I know for a fact it runs fine on Fedora 64-bit and SteamOS 64-bit. Not so much on the 32-bit Ubuntu box, which is the only stupidly overpowered box I have.
Wonder why.
But if you're wondering what Leadwerks is, it's a game engine, and it's pretty decent. The only thing I have to say, right now, there's not a lot of games out using that engine under Linux, and by not a lot, I can think of one that you have to pay to get in the alpha for. Does this give anyone else a chubby?
It's good to see a lot more high quality Linux development tools, because that of course brings more developers into the Linux fold. But like Ven said, not too many games using it. I think it needs the one killer game developed on it, and then people will start considering it.
And all things considered, the only other engine that actually had a Linux native editor was Unigine. This one is hopefully going to put Unity on the sidelines for a little bit, because personally, I've kind of had it with Unity games, since most of them tend to suck. Wasteland 2 is pretty good, don't get me wrong. Wasteland 2 is one of the very few good ones, but I want to see good Leadwerks games. And
well, hopefully, unlike Unigine, this will be more than a benchmark simulator.
Yeah, Unigine had that problem. It was very much a benchmark.
Unigine also just had the one game,
Oil Rush. Yeah. Ooh. But in all fairness, at the time, that was the most fantastic looking thing in period. Right.
Yeah, and Relics of Enrath.
And just to answer Pizza Hipster in there, no, we just showed a link that you can download it directly, LinuxGameCast.com, if you want to put that business in your face organ. But, cheap shot there. Cheap in.
You know what? I'll hit you with my best cheap shot. Fire away. So this is Desura's latest
Check out right here. Look at the third game.
Yeah, in 13 hours, 45 minutes, and 12 seconds, this thing will end. Look at all these high-quality titles. Combat Cats, Claudio,
trying to steal our gold.
Right here on the screen we're looking at, we have Metagolf FS, that dick trying to steal our gold.
Try to steal our gold. You know what? I kind of want to play this game, actually. Black Ice, racists. So basically the deal behind this is Desura saying, oh, if you want to get to the top of our list, you got to give a bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger discount. And the biggest discounts flip to the top, and yeah, that's basically it. They're trying to do like a weekly sale or a humble type thing where they drop prices of everything, which would be all well and good and all if Desura had games worth playing.
Wait a minute, Pedro, what's Desura? I've never heard of it.
Desura, it's a client that allows you to download games similarly to Steam, except it doesn't have any DRM of its own. It's just a client. It's a storefront, basically.
Delivery mechanism, right.
Yeah.
And since I actually have heard of it, I used to, like, once a month, because I know J-Man was like, I can't remember, then you remember the last time he used Desura. Once a month, I would just click on it to take a look at, the E team of Linux gaming and Linux games, things like...
That's generous.
That beautiful thing, that dick trying to steal our
Another
gold.
star. Oh, Zigfrax.
Zigfrax in there. I talked to the developer of Zigfrax, and he was like, well, this is the first time that they've just kind of done it themselves. Apparently, unlike, recently with Steam, they've just recently added the ability for developers to do their own sales. But on Desura, it's always been an option, and he's like, I'm not sure this is the first time they've ever done it in mass. We'll see how it works, and I mean to get back in him. I'll update that everyone next week on whether or not that they get a cut or they get any say-so in that business. So, these psychopaths are back, right?
Oh, yeah. They're back, and they're still
These
at it.
crazy motherfuckers.
Yep. Rebuilding the entire game, the entire engine for Morrowind, The Elder Scrolls 3, on Ogre 3D. If that's not the definition of insane, I don't know what is. But yeah, it's OpenMW 0.30.0, and now they have implemented a whole bunch of new stuff, like crime and punishment. If you actually attack one of the NPCs, the guards will rush to you and ask you if you want to go to jail. If you want to, well, you've played an Elder Scrolls game at this point. Everyone has, and they've also implemented.
What's an Elder Scrolls game?
Really? They've also implemented ranged combat, fixed the fact that the NPC AI like to stay stuck in a door, so they just end up locking it.
They also like to get stuck together, giggity.
Yeah. When the AI packages for the random NPCs that are wandering around in towns, when the AI packages collided with each other.
Oh, they fixed the fact that creatures without blood bleed.
You zoned in on that as well, didn't you?
Yeah, robots like the Dwemer constructs and undead, they don't exactly have blood, and they used to have that blood effect when you struck them. Doesn't happen anymore. They fixed that. They've also implemented the original...
Why was I programmed to bleed?
They've also implemented the original Morrowind main menu animation. If you actually played the game as much as I have, you know exactly how that loading type thing made you feel. Good on them for that.
So where can they pick it up?
They can pick it up at openmw.org. You can see they'll have a page full of posts. It'll have the download links for each specific version. Also, keep in mind that there is they're still working on the load/save system. So if you're actually trying to play through the game right now, first off, what the fuck are you doing? Are you crazy? Second,
also, yes.
It's since the save load games are still being actively worked on, you're probably going to run into some problems, and your save games may end up being corrupted. Keep that in mind.
So you want to drink some Kool-Aid, J-Man?
Oh, I've already drank the magic Kool-Aid, but I might be in the mood for a bit of wine.
Oh.
Yes, Good Old Games is looking for a Linux technology specialist who knows what DOSBox and wine is to package up. Oh, look, CD Projekt. Anyways, they've put out a posting for a Linux tech specialist. They want someone to package their games with DOSBox and wine because they're saying, well, now we're on the Linux support since that one company's doing it. Those losers, we're gonna do it too.
No idea who Valve is.
And so really what you would think they're doing is they're just gonna package up these games with DOSBox and wine and then sell them as Linux clients. And some people are in a bit of a hubbub about that because
wine isn't a real port. Blah 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 blah. No, I mean I'd say some of the confusion. A lot of people we've gotten just friends of the show screaming back. And they go, what do you have again? We love wine. Wine is an awesome project. Nothing but respect for it. Like I said, you're allowed your 5 heretic purchases, but we'll cover that later on. What wine isn't is it's not a port. It's a wrapper. That's it.
Yeah.
Now, DOSBox, love it because fuck all. Half that source code's been lost billions of years ago. Brilliant way to get it on, but yeah, if I want to buy a Linux game pre-wrapped in wine, I guess maybe that's okay. I don't know. P-Man?
If let's assume we're talking about good old games as they used to be called, if it's like a 7-year-old, 8-year-old, 10-year-old game, I'm okay with it being wrapped in wine. I mean, there's zero fucking chance that thing's gonna get ported to Linux.
My biggest question is support.
Yeah. The thing with support, most old games already have a platinum score. If you go look at WineHQ's app database, most already have a platinum score all around the board, regardless of distro, be it Arch, Fedora, Ubuntu, whatever. So there, I'm okay with it. They're old games. There's fuck all chance they're going to be ported anyway, so I'm alright with that. As long as they'll wrap, as long as they don't wrap the games that actually have Linux clients available. That I'm not okay with.
Yeah, it would be nice if, like, for something like Unreal Tournament, they would just have a package that has the Linux executables, because that would be wonderful.
Yep, and that's also a pain in the ass to get up and running. But
it is.
Revenge.
Strider. The Strider from just
Dynablaster Revenge.
Dynablaster.
I didn't say my blurb about GOG, you jerks. Fuck you guys.
Say your blog.
Fine, I will. You gotta consider the fact that GOG is primarily, they just take old games and sell. They're a reseller. They don't necessarily have the resources to port games or anything like that. And like Pedro said, it's fine that if they're porting older games, but we really need to send a message to the folks running GOG that we will not accept wine bottles for new games that are coming out, because GOG sells new games now.
Yeah.
And we should just not, and I would spread this to all the Linux forums you belong to, post it on Linux_gaming. Do not buy the wine wrap ports of new games, because that just sends a message to the developers that says, we will take whatever swill you try to cram down our throats. But we're not. Yeah. We're not going to. We're better. We're discerning customers. We're technically literate. We kicked the crap out of the fucking CD Projekt Red Porter guy because he's saying that it's just that his little Eon wrapper is just as good as native code. I think as Linux users, we should hold these kinds of companies to a much higher standard.
Yeah, and much like Maddie in Shut Realm Dynamic over there is saying, as long as they advertise that it is a wrapper, okay, just put that in a fucking blink tag on the store page, say it's a wrapper.
I actually can't do link tags anymore. They took them out of the HTML spec.
Unfortunately, but yes, that's the whole thing. I mean, if there is something to wrap this a little bit up, that long as they say, here's to make it a little bit longer than I even wanted to. If The Witcher came out and they're like, oh, by the way, this is wrapped or whatever, using whatever technology, I would have had fuck all comment to say, period. Yeah. I would have just went, I'm not buying that. The biggest thing is they never said that, and it's still busted as hell. Okay,
Oh, yeah.
now Dynablaster Revenge.
But yeah, this is Dynablaster
To play this
Revenge.
game, man, but before you get started, you have to play the game of where in fuck all do you download it from?
Oh, I see it. It's that link that's already been clicked on your page.
Yeah, that's the thing.
See,
The
when
first
you
time I
brought that
got
up
to
in the
this
show notes, I'm
website,
like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? He's a retard. And
I had no idea.
I go to download the game. I'm like, where the hell's the link? Control F download. Oh, that's stupid.
Yeah, this is very poor web design, but there is a download link. You can see it right there. If you can't, just Control F download, like Jordan said. But yeah, it's a Bomberman clone for Linux. Done, guess what? In Unity. There's only one teeny tiny snafu that I run into with the Linux version. Sound that doesn't work. But according to Chat Realm member Pizza Dude, he says that it's going to be fixed in the next update, so I'll be looking forward to that.
Yeah, I mean, I played this. I had to go through a bit of work because I didn't really know what it was. I just like, boom, here's a new thing, and you need to check it out. It was kind of thrown in our face walking. I was like, oh, fair enough. And it was like, oh, right. I was just reading the README files, like, oh, you need STL 2.Z2, and I had 2.ZZ. I was like, oh, fine, let me just build that right quick. Do that. I went to launch it, and I was like, nope, it didn't launch. And I was like, well, fuck, what's the issue? Get down towards the bottom of the README file. It's like, oh yeah, take the executable and move it back into the original directory.
Yep.
And I was like, why? Was that done for fuck all reason? Okay, click, boom, run it. At least I didn't know anything. Then I looked at it, I was like, oh, right. Bomberman clone. Blew up, killed all the bots. And I was like, all right, then we find the escape button. I don't think you even got that far, J-Man.
Yeah, no, I didn't catch the exe thing, so I'm trying that right now. And it's still seg faults, but I have SDL 203. You'd think that wouldn't really cause an issue. Unable to open file data, blah 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 blah. Oh, fun! I'm gonna need to spend some time on that. If actually, no, it's not even worth it at this point.
Works fine for me. And yes, Pizza Dude, it is Unity.
Unity.
So, I mean, that's the thing. It clocks in at a reasonable price of free. So, I mean, do yourself.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
pick it up if you can get it working.
Link's going to be in our show note. You might enjoy it. Bomberman, I mean, it's pretty. I'll give it that. But at the end of the day, it's just a Bomberman clone. I didn't see anything that it offered new.
And the character movement's a bit janky, to say the least.
Janky.
Welcome to Earth.
Yeah.
Welcome to Earth. So this is Kaiser Earth, and this is a hipster pixel. Actually, I think Pedro put it best. This is basically the last Federation, but with really a lot of focus on the ship, and that's it. There's no making political alliances.
There's absolutely nothing else.
It is Smash Aliens, and you know, I would think this would be a great movie tie-in game for something like Iron Sky. Because you're essentially playing the USS America. They're talking about preemptive retaliatory strikes. So yeah. I would say that sounds like President Palin's policy.
What they do say about it is you create custom ships from randomly fuck level design, protect Earth from threats, strategically command your ship in battles, play strategically,
decide the intergalactic
strategic all the
Earth.
Things, and it's up to you to ensure that Earth's survival, what was that, prosperity
or
doom.
And you know, it's cheap as free. You can pick this up for nothing. It used to be for $2.99, but they've dropped that to zip.
Well, yeah, anything. I mean, it's out now for $3, $5, or $10. Pick one. Wait, no, free.
Or more like free 5 or 10,
or $9.99. What else?
Yeah, I don't think this was the best place to start begging for money there.
Nope.
But
it really wasn't.
It's you know, maybe it's time to feel a little blue for this guy.
Just a little blue, but it's not Monday anymore. No, this is
like you. Go ahead.
Blue Saga. It's a 2D retro. It's not actually pixel hipster, but it's close enough. It's a retro-inspired 2D top-down view MMO.
In all fairness, it did retro right.
Yeah, it is retro done right. I'll give him that. The graphics fit for what they are, and it is a one-man project, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, an MMO for a one-man project. Dude, you're going into a mental institution. Yep.
No, I was looking at it. You see, we got 6 people online, and I was like, well, this really reminds me of like online Zelda. That I was like, the game.
I can aesthetically, yeah, but the gameplay is just so radically different from Zelda.
Go to about.
It's more akin to the Mono World.
My main inspiration sources for this game are Zelda, Dark Souls.
Wait to fill out the Zelda.
Pokemon, amongst others, but more games are added into the mix as I make progress. Over ecstatic, happy, smiley face. And
that sounds like this game is going to become like a mishmash of various genres.
It could be some crazy sauce. It is online.
Three-eyed.
It is a Java game. So it's going to run on everything. You're going to need Java installed to play it. You got to create an account, created a Moon account, logged in. I was the 3rd player on there. It was kind of brilliant and extremely lonely MMO.
After about 5-10 minutes of playing this, I'm like, okay, I'm kind of bored. But I tried to exit through the menu, and it wouldn't let me.
You're not leaving.
It's
clear that he's taking some pointers from a couple of games here and there. Unfortunately, he seems to be taking pointers from mobile games, and if there's one thing an MMO does not need, are mobile game elements. You know, the whole play for a certain amount of time, and then you have to wait until your health regenerates.
No. You see, Pedro, both of you, this is why you have the sharp button.
There, no.
Yeah, see, this is where he's thinking ahead. He's like, well, soon you'll be able to remove that if you buy extra, 10 hours stamina, Viagra, whatever.
Viagra potion.
MMOs are already grindy by nature. I don't need fucking mobile elements to help in the mix. Nope.
All right, shut down this segment, J-Man. It's time for the review.
All right, coming up next, we're going to be super, super racist as we put some white sheets over ourselves and chase out some rich people. It's White Noise Online. And we're back, and we're throwing racist chairs at White Noise Online, developed by Milksode Studios, and quite possibly a Unity game. We haven't quite figured that out yet. You can pick it up for $5.99 on the Steams, and you can check it out on their website, milkstonestudios.com/game/white-noise-online. Of course, all this crap will be in the show notes. But really, what is this game? From the makers of Little Racer Street comes a slender version, 1,942,752,309.3372.5. Now with online co-op. A team of up to 4 investigators has to explore an area looking for clues while avoiding being devoured by a supernatural creature who literally goes, nom 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 nom.
Yep.
Yeah, he's not very terrifying. And of course, but it is terrifying. The chair explanation. Oh my god! 1 chair means that it's absolute shit. 2 chairs means that it's 3 chairs means check it out, and 4 chairs means Pedro will have a long, lengthy blurb about it on the fun section, and it'll basically sound like blah 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 blah, because you're probably gonna have to stab your ears out. And of course, we have the categories of Doom mixed with the working, shiny, and sounds controls and fun. With that, we average it up, toss it in a blender, drink what's blended, shit that out, and forge that into a lawn chair, and that's our final score. So then, mix with the working.
Check this business out. How does it make with the working? Keep in mind that we are 3 separate people running 3 separate distributions on varied hardware, and this guy over here is running on the minimum test system, the Ubuntu 1204 LTS Dual 770 powered box of business. Now, we did a fantastic Players. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. And
check that out.
That's how we learned whether or not it made with the working. It did. I mean, considering this came from the lot, from Little Race's Street, that, man, it was a game, but it had a small, bugs like handbrake always on, making completely unplayable, and still to this day, online matchmaking is dodgy.
At best.
This one did genuinely make with the working. I'm going to have to ding it a chair, and mainly because there's a little bug. If you don't have your controller plugged in, like before you start the game in Steam, no sir, or at least on my test case, and it continues to want to launch in a windowed 1080 screen, and I was like, well, full screen, and it finally goes full screen, and you put it in like 720 for a little window for like some capture or something like that. You touch that window and it'll fly everywhere. Ding, you get a chair on that, but still, if it makes with the working, not 4 chairs, but trays, because it's got to ding it for those little tiny things, nitpicky but very serious issues.
All right. So on the Fedora 20 64-bit powered AMD 1090T 670 superclock powered system here with, well, now it's the latest NVIDIA drivers, but before it was 1 or 2 generations beforehand, works out of the box. And on the AMD A10 5800K system, running the Mesa 10 drivers, works out of the box, no issues, quite impressive. And you know what? Got to give it some credit. It at least had working network multiplayer.
Mm-hmm.
That was nice.
Yep.
We've had quite a few games in the past that do not have working multiplayer, so it was very nice to be able to connect to Ven and play that very, very... we'll get into that. 4 chairs for makes it working.
Yeah, on my end, on the calculator, with an ATI 5650 HD Mobility Radeon, using the Mesa 10.1 drivers on Corora 2032-bit, it ran out of the box. And on my old PC, using the 304 NVIDIA drivers for the 7600 NVIDIA GeForce it also ran out of the box. So no complaints for me here. So 4 chairs.
All right, we tally that up. That's 3 chairs for makes with the working. Now is the shiny and the sounds. And given the expansive color palette of this game, I expect we're going to hear quite a lot about that. So Ven, why don't you go on?
Shiny and sounds. Let's kick it over to the little trailer here so we can take a look at that little bit of goodness. This genuinely looks like My First Unity, the game. These guys can make some half-decent looking games. We've seen that with Little Race's Streets and some of the other projects that I was bouncing around looking at on their web zone. This, however, is just lazy. Has the staticky filter on it. The models are meh. The animations for the models make meh look like something you would aspire to. And the best sounds, honestly, really, without joking, the best sounds come from Skype and talking with your mates about how shit this game actually looks. That's definitely your best sounds on that, since they're not completely busted, and it does actually have visual displays, and there is some sounds in it, but we're just going to cut those down while we were chatting. I want to give it the 2 chairs because that's what it deserves over here in Vinland.
All right. Well, we had some good fun with it on the Players episode. You should totally watch that to get most of my gripes about the audio-visual component of the game. Suffice to say, all the faces have this action figure type grimace on their face, where it's like this annoyed grimace. The walking animations are just completely fucking lazy, because you seem to walk at the steady pace, but it just goes a little faster when you're running. And because, this... ideally, it's supposed to be a single-player game. You're supposed to be afraid and isolated and whatnot. I gave this the business on single-player for 10 whole minutes, and I have to say the atmosphere is just complete garbage. Lots of expansive dark rooms. It's just... there's not even jump scares. I was, expecting jump scares, but it's just like, oh, the screen is fuzzy. I need to turn off my flashlight and go in the opposite direction. How terrifying. Meh. So, I mean, this game is fairly lacking. I can't give it 1 chair because, the graphics were at least acceptable. Barely. So 2 chairs.
And, well, they tried to have an atmosphere. Playing with headphones, you can actually hear footsteps in the distance and other spooky quote-unquote side effects. But the character screams sound completely disembodied. Much like Jordan, I tried playing single player, and when I heard my character scream, it sounded like it was from like 50 feet away. That's not very good. Also, the flashlight flickers as you progress through the game and pick up more and more tape recorders. The flickering becomes more intense. It starts to flicker more.
Seizure-tastic, you would almost say?
Yeah. And the beam becomes darker and darker. It illuminates less and less as you progress. So by the time you have 7 tape recorders, you're looking at eye strain while suffering from an epileptic seizure. Good times. And there's one thing I noticed. This is just me being nitpicky, but if you have a level or a stage with a water stream, as soon as it hits some sort of obstacle like a cobblestone road or anything, it just ends. It doesn't continue. It just ends there. Water doesn't work like that. And much like Jordan, I can't give it 1 chair because 1 chair means this shit's broken. So 2 chairs.
So that's 2 chairs for Shiny and Sounds. Now comes the controls section. Then, with monsters chasing you and you being a meddling kid and whatnot, or maybe sometimes an Aryan princess, did you feel you were in control?
Zoinks! Controls, they worked. I mean, it worked with the X-Clone controller. To the point that any first-person type game played with a controller is equally as miserable. But, I mean, thumbs up on that. I mean, no issues whatsoever.
Yeah, I guess after Little Racer Street, they're using SDL2 now.
Right, they got that business sorted. But if you're playing with a, gerbil keyboard setup, Pedro's probably going to get more into this, but, I think everyone here has, like, the hardware built-in sensitivity. Because you're fucking better, because there's no adjustments there to be found. So you might just be flipping around trying to sort that business. And honestly, as slow as this muddy is, you probably want to actually stick with an X-Clone controller or something like that, because there's really no need to attempt to move fast, because you're really not moving fast. But everything works, but I'm going to ding it a chair just because, we don't really have any sensitivity adjustments on your gerbil. So 3 chairs for that business, J-Man.
This game moves like mud. That's really like if I were neck deep in mud and someone told me to like run, this is what playing that game sounds like. You can see it in the players where Pedro sees the monster. I'm like, oh, let me take a look. And by the time I get to where Pedro was standing, the monster was gone. I'm like, I don't know. I tried initially with keyboard and mouse. Didn't work out all that well because I couldn't run. I was holding down shift and nothing. The only way I could run was using controller guy here. Also tried it on Turbo Seizure controller. It worked on that pretty well. Almost. If you're, I didn't actually get that far into like collecting tape recorders, but because your gamepad rumbles whenever you're near the monster, and
boy does it.
Yeah, and and Turbo Seizure controller flashes when it rumbles. In addition to the flashlights flickering. I'm kind of glad that I didn't actually get any further, because I might be dead. But anyways, yeah, this game, I mean, while the controls may work, the actual controls themselves move like ass, and that's really unacceptable in what's supposed to be like a survival horror game. So I'm gonna give this 2 chairs.
Yeah. So I tried it with the PS2 DualShock controller, and it worked reasonably well, which leads me to believe that they are in fact using SDL2. Good on them for that. But much like Ven said, where is the mouse sensitivity slider? That thing is a staple when it comes to controls nowadays, because everyone's at that point with their fancy gerbils and whatnot that they like to have control over the sensitivity of said gerbils. And okay, playing it with the keyboard and mouse kind of worked, but as soon as the Monster du Jour appeared for the first time, Le Monster du Jour, the first time it appeared, I had my controller in a sort of a precarious position, and it rumbled so much it fell off the desk. That's
by
nice.
precarious, I thought you meant on your crotch.
No, it was actually on the desk and it just kind of rumbled its way to the floor. That's not nice. If I'm playing with the keyboard, this shouldn't be, responsive. And running, like Jordan mentioned earlier, running in this game is about as fast as a purposeful walk. Let's say you're trying to cross the street in real life. That steady pace you keep up, that's running in this game. 3 chairs, I'm sorry.
You're sorry for a 3 chair score? I'm not. All right, so this guy gets 2 chairs for control, and our final subjective category. And remember, we are 3 different people on 3 different sets of hardware running 2 different operating systems. So, Ven, did you have fun?
I would have liked it if it wasn't for you kids and that dog that wasn't in the game.
They forgot the dog.
Here's what we at,
No,
ladies.
it used to be like an attack German Shepherd that goes out.
We'll call it a modern warfare. No,
Call of Duty Ghosts.
right. So here's what we actually are. They took the concept of Slender, which is a single game that you're supposed to have forever alone. Clicked in, lights are dimmed, and you're going for the whole jump scares, like, oh, something's out trying to get me. And the twist on that genre was invite all your friends, so it immediately turns into
let's hold him down and beat him to death.
Right, let's go find the monster. I mean, that's really all you fucking care about at that point, because there's no scare there, because you're busy chatting amongst yourself. Maybe you're playing with strangers, giggity, stay safe. But yeah, they took that genre out. The multiplayer just completely sucked all that fun out for me. And the single player is just balls miserable. The original Slender kind of looked better. I mean, there's not a whole lot of love in this. This really just reeks of, maybe we could cash in on people playing this on the tubes. But I think P-Man will get into that a bit more. But for fun, yeah, we did have fun ripping on it, but we didn't, well, at least for me, have fun playing it in any possible way. So I'm going to say it's busted with a 1 chair for fun, because this is subjective, and that's it. J-Man.
Yeah, really, the only fun you can derive from this game is MST3King it.
Mm-hmm.
The atmosphere is just meh. The monster isn't even terrifying. It's just like some 4-armed dude that goes. Seriously, like that's what it looks like. And he like hovers you in the air. And sometimes you'll come across like this green glowing shit that you can't look at. And the horror aspects boil down to they're not being scary, they're more inconvenient than anything.
Yep.
And this is why this game fails, because as a horror game, it's not scary. Even when you're alone, even when you're walking through the Hangar 18 or you're walking through the Louvre, and they're like evil alien monsters. And oh yeah, I was going through the art gallery level, and they have these giant Olmec heads like from The Simpsons. And if you go to the other side, they have like the museum exhibit, and they have like giant Olmec heads, and then they had a description that you can't actually read, and that really upset me. Because I'm like, the history of the giant Olmec heads is actually more interesting than this game. I want to learn about them. And I ended up just going to Wikipedia and not playing this game. One chair.
Yeah, so to qualify what I'm about to say about this game, I will say this. I like horror games. Amnesia, The Dark Descent, Silent Hill 2. I like the Penumbra series. Those were very good horror games.
The Witcher 2.
I love them. Yeah, that's a different kind of horror. That's a different kind of horror. And much like Yahtzee once said, there are three kinds of horror games. There's the amnesia type thing where you think there's something behind you, but you don't want to look and you're scared. That's the best kind of horror. There's the Doom 3 kind of horror, which is what Jordan was sort of looking forward to, which was the monster comes running out of the darkness, goes boo, and you get scared. That's the second type.
Just to interject for a second, I was actually kind of hoping for the amnesia type horror, but
yeah, most people at this point are, because Amnesia was pretty good. But yeah, that's type 2 of horror. That's the Doom 3 type of horror. And then there's the third type, which was often used to describe titles like Dead Space, in which the monsters are on the other side of a brightly lit room, and they walk towards you at the sound of a violin. And that's not particularly scary, and this game sort of falls into the latter category, because you can see the monster's right there. As soon as it appears, it goes ching! And it's supposed to provide the number 2 kind of horror scary, like the jump scare, but it doesn't. It really doesn't
move.
And the original Slender actually had one thing that sort of made it work.
It was original?
It had that thing where if you didn't look at the monster and you knew for a fact that it was always behind you, and if you turned around you could see the monster and you had to run. That worked, and it made the game atmospheric. It was sort of the pressure of running and not letting the Slenderman catch you. This doesn't even have that, because every now and again it'll bullshit kill you out of nowhere. The monster's like 10 feet away from you, and if you even so much as see it from the corner of your eye, bam, it's just there humping your leg, going yum yum yum. So I like horror games, but I absolutely hate what the PewDiePie effect has done to them. This game, as Total Biscuit once put it, is PewDieBait. It's a game designed solely for the screechy scarecam featuring YouTubers. One chair.
And that's one chair for fun. So if we toss this into a blender and go through that process I mentioned at the top of the review, we get 2 chairs for white noise online, you racists. So that means not sure if want. I think I'm going to throw an asterisk at the end of that 2 chairs. Because this is, I mean, it gets the 2 chairs on a technicality, but really, don't buy this game. It's not unless you have a group of friends and you want to hang around and make fun of a shitty horror game. It's not worth your money.
That really is
definitely my final thoughts. We're looking at this, and we paid our own wet stinky cashes for this, £6, and what J-Man just said. I mean, unless you want to sit around and rip on it, multiplayer. If 6 wet stinky a piece is good for about 30 minutes of entertainment, and immediately after that going, I never cared to play this forgettable thing that really feels like they were really late to the party of the Slender Clone thing, and was like, but we have a new idea, it's multiplayer, which completely blows the whole purpose of that genre. I mean, it's nothing now. Now it's a multiplayer, collect tape recorders, and there's a random monster that whatever's going to fuck you over. So, yeah, I wouldn't personally buy it unless you want to, Mystery Science 3K on it.
Yep.
Then it's good. P-Man?
No, that's it. I kind of said it all I had to about this game. It's the genre that came to ruin one of my favorite video game genres. And no, I refuse to endorse these kind of games. I'm sorry. No, don't get it.
What's up next?
What's up next? Your hate mail, as you call us racist for hating on the white noise. Running and producing a free show turns out to be really fucking expensive. So if you head on over to linuxgamecast.com/podcast, or just click on the podcast link on linuxgamecast.com, you can click on any number of our donato buttons here. A recurring donation of about $3.50 or $10 a month gets you a producer credits and access to our show notes. And if you can't afford a recurring donation and just want to throw us a one-time wet stinky donation, you can totally do that. Get put in our glorious Linux Gaming Master Race credit and on the Wall of Shame on our website. So check that out. Give us some money. We need it. We wants it bad.
And it's time, that time of the week, where we read the stuff you sent over to the email. And just a quick reminder, if you'd like to get in touch with us, go on over to linuxgamecast.com. Just push the contact button on the nav bar there, fill out your name, fill out your email, give us a subject, give us your message, prove you're smarter than a bot maybe, and we'll be happy to feature your message. Unless, of course, you're trying to promote a Indiegogo, Kickstarter, Steam Greenlight, while they're still around. If you're trying to promote any of those, just be sure to include a prototype, demo, alpha, beta, call it whatever the hell you want. Just include something we can play around with. All right? All right. So, apparently we have some heretic purchases. Heretic? Heretic.
Heretic. Travis in. He writes in, I'm going to count buying The Witcher 2 as a heretic purchase. The Linux version won't even start on my system, guessing you're using Fedora. Using either Wine or Windows will be required in order for me to play it. I wanted to check out The Witcher 2 anyway, so I'm glad I got it cheap. It would be nice if virtual programming actually fixed the wrapper, but given their track record, which we all know, I doubt they're going to do this. Travis, my man, my bro, can I call you that? Fist bumps. Oh, right. You did bring up a heretic purchase. If you're new to the show, any self-respecting Linux gamer is allowed 5 heretic purchases. My 2 thus far been Skyrim and Trackmania United Forever. Almost blew another one on the South Park game, but didn't. But what you're talking about isn't a heretic purchase. That only counts if you buy something that does not quote-unquote natively run on Steam, on Linux and all that. And this was kind of a tricky, middle muddy thing. I think you can safely not count this, The Witcher 2, because it's just like a BS wannabe quote-unquote native port, which they never say anything about. This is only going to count if you buy something knowing in your heart of hearts will never see the light of day on Linux, which, then again, maybe you could count The Witcher. I don't know. What are your thoughts? I think we should give him a pass on this one, P-Man.
Yeah, I'm all right with him counting this as a heretic purchase. And all things considered, running Steam through Wine and playing Witcher 2 like that will net you a much better experience than that bullshit EON or whatever the fuck they call it.
J-Man, do you have any thoughts on this?
I would say, in the spirit of the heretic purchase rule, yeah, I have to agree with Ben. You bought this under the pretense that it was an actual honest-to-God Linux port. And then it turned out it wasn't. A lot of people were not so pleasantly surprised once they found out. I know I wasn't.
Oh, you mean that thread in the Witcher 2 forum that has like more posts than any other?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
I might be slightly understating it. That being said, I don't care if you buy games to play online. This is more of a Ven thing.
So,
but
I got to take a crack at this next one, unfortunately.
Turn it up.
I hate to do this, but I got to do 2 in a row. Cossack writes, Hello, I listened to your gaming podcast on iTunes. Can you please make it louder? When I'm on the streets, I can barely hear you speaking, with a maximum volume set. But the music intro is so loud that it blows my ears. It needs equalization. Other podcasts work as they should for me. For example, Everyday Linux, Linux Action Show, etc. And thank you. I just did that because I'm an absolute dick. Thank you again for putting our distortion into your ear pussies. Also, that's fantastic on you. Everyone who does that is a better person. I've been thinking about cutting it up, to 11, just a bit more. In almost 2 years, you're the first person ever to bring this up, as far as the entire show. Now, as far as that, heavy metal bit, that's supposed to be louder than everything. If it's too loud, you're too old. P-Man, you got any thoughts on that?
No, not really. But then again, I don't actually listen to the podcast while I'm on the street, so I don't know.
That makes me wonder what he's doing on the streets, J-Man. What do you think?
I don't know. I stopped listening to podcasts on the street because I was listening to Smodcast one time while I was walking, and I just started cracking up, and I almost died. Like, honestly, a car almost hit me, so I figured that would probably put the kibosh on that. That being said, I'm actually curious. I listen to our audio podcast. I've never noticed any audio issues, so who knows?
But then again, he is using an iDevice, so that may factor into
The
it.
Linux Gamecast rejects the iDevice and tries to force you to buy an Android.
It's trying to crawl its way out. So Sandy, you might remember him from
former Linux Gamecast co-host Sandy writes in. He says,
Shame about his death.
And we were talking about Space Nerds in Space last week, and he says, "Hey, checked out that Space Nerds in Space some more, and it really is D&D in space. You have a DM who controls the story and the enemies and everything else, while the players are playing roles on a ship like gunner, engineer, captain, arbitrary crewman, turning knobs, red and red shirt. So to that I say, D&D in space? Dear God, my nerd panties are a quiver. But no, this was more or less what I thought it was. Again, this is something I really need to get a bunch of friends together and set up a LAN for, but
Pedro is practically vibrating with something he wants to say. Look at him.
No. It's just last week, I watched the episode last week, and then you compared it to Artemis, but you weren't sure if that was the name. Yes, it was the name. It is similar to Artemis with the DM.
Like there was a slim chance I could ever be wrong. You're adorable.
But it does have a DM player, or dungeon master as it would, to actually give the game some narrative.
So there's that. And finally, Zero this bots this time says, in the inordinate amount of time it takes to watch an LGC episode, I can poke around Google, get 10 times as much information with 99% less swearing, bullshit, hacking each other, and otherwise unhelpful content. And I can use -1 for my results. Pedro, before you get into your thing, I just have to say, this is a comedy podcast. We're here to entertain you under the pretense of educating you on Linux games. If you want informative stuff, you're more than welcome to use Google and some text-to-speech thing. But this is an entertainment podcast. We're trying to entertain you. If we're not entertaining you, you should probably either send more hate mail or just not listen.
All right. Put the kibosh on that, Jew. Let the Mexican talk.
Let the Mexican talk.
With that said, with what Jordan said, I don't think anyone has you tied to a chair and forced to watch LGC episode upon episode.
Shit, that reminds me of something. I'll be right back.
I don't think that's the case, at least not with you. Let's leave Ven's basement out of this for a moment.
Can you tie someone to a yoga ball, really?
You don't like what we do? That's fair. There's the fucking door. Also, thanks for the ad revenue.
To Jordan's question, glue, not tie. It's far more entertaining. Here's kind of the thing I left out of the show notes. running the YouTube channel, they've restructured the way the comments work, and they have like likely spam. Kind of zaps some of the fun out of the hate mail, because like this fine young specimen of a gentleman, if you create an account that has no post or anything like that, and you go the tubes is like likely spam, and I only check that maybe every 2 or 3 weeks, because the majority of our comments come from actual people, not fucking 12-year-olds. Go back to your Call of Duty, or at least, create an account and participate in the conversation. Love the hate mail. Love the ad revenue, man. It get a little chubby knowing that you've watched it enough to know our shtick. That just, yes. But on that bombshell, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to cue that music, because at the end of the day, you can find me at Vin Stone on the Twitter nets, plus Vin Stone on the G pluses, and this man, this beast, this monster.
Ow! You can find me at at plus Jordan Swung on the or at the Burning Fool on the Twitter nets. You motherfucker. And then there's this asshole.
Hi, I'm Pedro Mateus. You can find me at Unaccounted For on Twitter, or plus Pedro Mateus on the Google Plus.
So at the end of the day, let's just see how big our thumb and, middle fingers are from each
Middle
other.
finger.
Well, that's pretty big. Yeah. Two in the pink, one in the Mexican.
The Spocker.
Shocker.
The Spocker.
No. No. The Shocker is inferior. You really do need the Spocker.
That's what he said.
The Spocker is the best. But